Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, and good morning. We are going through a very interesting time in the world today. And this is the kind of turbulence that brings out leaders. You find that in the military, they say that officers pray for peace, but they hope for war. Now, what does that mean? Well, they pray for peace because peace is always the best of all times, but they hope for war because in times of warfare, officers can be promoted rapidly because of performance. We always want it to be peaceful in our business lives, but it's only when it is turbulent that you can demonstrate that you are excellent people. It's where you can demonstrate that you have the ability to rise to the top. So in times of turbulence, there are always great opportunities. And one of the things we know is that in your life, the only thing you can be sure of is the occasional crisis. Does anyone here have any problems? Of course. Everyone here has problems. Problems come like the waves from the ocean. They never stop, except for the occasional crisis. And so, if you are living a busy life, you will have a crisis once every 2 or 3 months. You'll have a financial crisis, a business crisis, family crisis, health crisis. You'll have a crisis every 2 or 3 months. That is normal life. What this means is that everyone in this room is in a crisis right now, or you have just gotten out of a crisis, or you are just about to have a crisis. And the only question is how you deal with the crisis. So look upon this as a time of great opportunity. I have studied leadership for many years, and one of the questions is, are there natural-born leaders? Are leaders born or are leaders made? And the answer is that leaders are not only made, leaders are self-made. Is we become leaders by directing ourselves, by educating ourselves, and by stepping forward and taking leadership responsibilities. And today I'm going to give you a lot of ideas that you can use to dramatically improve your effectiveness as a manager and as a leader. Now, more than 350,000 executives like yourselves have been interviewed extensively over a period of 22 years to find out how top executives, top managers think most of the time. And what we find is that top people have special ways of thinking that separate them from average people. And we're talking today about the top 10%. We're talking about the people in this room. Everyone in this room is in the top 10%. How do we know that? It's because you're here. You see, only the top 10% of managers come to these seminars. Everyone else has a reason not to be here. Everyone else thinks they know everything. Everyone else thinks they're too smart. Or everyone else is just plain lazy. Leaders get a clear picture of the future, and then they step forward and they take the first step. Now, here's the most amazing thing, is that when you have a clear picture of your perfect future, the first step appears. Almost like one of those steps that light up in a nightclub, where you can see to walk, is the first step appears. And if you have the courage to take the first step, the second step appears. And if you have the courage to take the second step, the third step appears. You can always see far enough to take the first step once you're clear about your goal. All successful people have written goals. In fact, people with written goals and plans accomplish 10 times as much and faster than average people. Only 3% of adults in the world today have written goals and plans. And those people accomplish 10, 11 times as much as average people. And I talk to people about this all the time. I teach goal setting. I have a book here in Polish on goals. And people say, oh, I know what my goals are. I know. So I don't need to write them down. Well, I call these cigarette smoke goals. Cigarette smoke, it just disappears. It has no substance. It has no energy. It has no power. But a goal that is written down is a powerful goal. It's something that you can work on. It's something you can see. It's something that that gives you guidance for action. So if you only did one thing from today, is simply write down your goals. I'll give you an exercise. No extra charge for this. Take a sheet of paper like this is mine, and write down 10 goals that you would like to achieve in the next year. This is your homework assignment. Just write down 10 goals. I write them down like this so I can read them. And the very act of writing down 10 goals will change your life in ways that you cannot imagine. It's almost like taking a hand grenade and pulling the pin and dropping it into a toilet and flushing the toilet. Boom. What happens is all the plumbing in your house will be different. My point is that when you when you make a list of 10 goals, amazing things will start to happen in your life. And make a list of 10 goals that describe your ideal future. Where would you like to be in terms of health, wealth, work, home, car, vacation, travel? Just write down 10 goals that you'd like to accomplish in the next year. And if all you did was put this away somewhere where you wouldn't see it at all for a year, like perhaps in the pages of your Bible, somewhere you never look. At the end of the year, you could take out your list and it would be as though a magic trick has been done. Abracadabra, abracadoo, poof. And when you open it up, you'll be both happy and sad. You'll be happy because 8 of your 10 goals will have been accomplished in the most amazing ways. And you'll be sad because you'll wish you had set more goals and bigger goals. Is when you work on an important task, you get a flow of energy. You feel happier. You feel stronger. And when you complete an important task, you feel like a runner who has just come across the finish line first. You feel like a winner when you complete an important task. And when you complete an important task, your brain releases endorphins. And these endorphins are called nature's happy drug. And you feel happy when you complete something important. And when you feel happy, you are then motivated to do it again and to do something else that's important. And pretty soon you develop what is called a positive addiction. You become addicted to completing important tasks. So here's what top people do, is they never complain about problems. They say, I am here to solve problems, not to complain. Little people, weak people, complain about problems. Quack, 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 quack. But top people say, that's my job, is to solve problems. And so they don't get upset and they don't get angry. What they do is they go to work to solve the problems at their level. Success in life is not determined by luck. It's determined by the law of probability. The law of probability says that there is a probability that everything can happen. But it also says that in business you can influence the probabilities. You can shape the probabilities. You can increase the probabilities that something will happen. Now, all breakthroughs come from new ideas. So therefore, if you have more ideas, you cannot determine which idea it will be, but you know that if you have lots of ideas, the probability of having a great idea is far higher. And so therefore, successful people just have more ideas. But where do these ideas come from? We're not talking about painting pictures like Michelangelo or being a Nobel Prize-winning scientist. The ideas come from looking for solutions, because all ideas are solutions to problems. And when you have an idea, it's always an idea for an action that you can take. And it's an idea for an action that you can take. When? When can you take this action? Now, immediately. So therefore, and when you take action, do you know what happens? Is your mind throws off new ideas. As you take action toward any goal, you get more ideas on how to achieve the goal. What we have found is there's a direct relationship between how quickly you take action and how likely it is that you will ever take action at all. So successful people act immediately. Unsuccessful people like to think about it for a while, and then they never take any action at all. So if you take action quickly and you do this over and over, you eventually develop the habit of taking action. And the habit of taking action is the mark of the leader in every organization. Leaders are continuously taking actions to achieve the results. Leaders are continually taking actions to achieve the goals. Non-leaders are waiting. Quack, 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 quack. And so you go into any office environment and you'd be surprised. Most people are sitting there, reading the paper, talking, drinking coffee. There's only one or two people that are working quickly, and they are the leaders. Can anybody here ride a bicycle? Do you remember when you first tried to ride a bicycle? Do you remember what happened? What happened? You fell down, okay? But did you quit? No, because you knew it's possible to ride a bicycle. You got back up, you tried it again. The point that I'm making is simple, is today I'm going to teach you a lot of techniques that are used by top managers. And when you try them the first time, they may not work that well. So what you do is you try them again, and you try them again until you have mastered these skills. And once you've mastered the skills, you own them for the rest of your life. Just like now, you can ride a bicycle for the rest of your life. You can make that dish at home for the rest of your life. You own the skills. What is it that weak people do? Weak people will try it once and then quit. They say, oh, it doesn't work. Must be something wrong with it. What do strong people do? Strong people just keep working with it until they have mastered the skill. Number one, top of the list, is planning. Now, planning says, which is determining exactly what is to be done. In fact, your ability to plan is one of the most important things that you do. There are people who plan, and there are people who carry out the plan. The person who makes the plan is the one who is the leader. The person who does the planning is the one who is in charge. So here's a great question for you. What is the most important work that you do? What is the most important work that you do in your work? Well, the most important thing you do is thinking. Thinking is the most important thing you do in your whole life, because the quality of your thinking determines the quality of your decisions. The quality of your decisions determines the quality of your actions. The quality of your actions determines the quality of your results. And of all the places where thinking is important, planning is essential. We talked about future orientation and goal orientation. What we're talking about is planning. And the rule is always think on paper. Always think on paper. Always think with a pen in your hand and write. There's something that takes place between the brain and the hand when you write things down that make them very clear for you. But if all you do is you think in your mind, you find that you'll always be confused and you'll make more mistakes than you can imagine. So planning is for you to decide exactly what is to be done. Sitting down, and by the way, whenever you have turbulence like today, whenever there are rapid changes in the marketplace, you have to stop and say, wait a minute, and sit down and plan again. Always be willing to change your plans if your current plans are not working. Always be willing to draw a line under your plans and say, wait a minute, things have changed. We have a new situation. Now, what is our plan? And one of the major reasons that people fail is they fail to build new plans to replace old plans that don't work. In a time of rapid change, you may have to be changing your plans every month. Sometimes if you have a major setback, you may have to do new plans every week. I do strategic planning for large corporations. The largest corporation I ever did strategic planning for was a $72 billion company with 120,000 employees in 94 countries. Pretty high-level stuff. And you know what I teach them? I say, first of all, idealize and imagine that this company was perfect in 5 years. What would it look like? And what steps could we take today to achieve it? But the other thing I do is I say to my clients, they say, who should be involved in the planning process, strategic planning? And I say, everyone who will be required to carry out the plan should be involved in the plan. And we'll talk about this later, but the more you involve people in the planning process, the more responsibility they take for the success of the plan. If you create a plan and tell somebody this is the plan, then people say, okay, but this is your plan. You know, I will make a little bit of effort, but if it doesn't work out, it's not my fault. But if you ask people for their advice and you include their advice in your plan, what happens is they feel that this plan belongs to them, and therefore they feel responsible for making the plan successful. So who should be involved in planning? Everyone. And what you do is you just ask for people's opinions. Just ask for their opinions and their ideas on the plan. One of the things I learned many years ago in planning is what you do is you put together an initial plan, a basic plan, and then you share it with other people and ask for their opinions. And you will be amazed at the good ideas that you will get. And the more you ask for people's ideas on your plan, the more committed they will be once the plan is finalized. So never present people with a final plan, always sort of like a basic plan or a tentative plan, and then ask for their opinion. And this brings us to the second key thinking skill or role of management, and that is organizing. And organizing means bringing together the necessary resources to fulfill the plan. So in the plan, if in business, you will have the sales that you need to accomplish and the profitability and so on. And then you have to ask yourself, what resources will you require to carry out the plan? What resources will you require? What people will you require? One of the reasons why we have the financial crisis in the world today is because even years ago, people realized this is not going to work. But they had short-term thinking, and the short-term thinking was that I could make a quick profit now, and maybe it'll work in the future. So what you had was people all over the world biting off short-term profits until the whole system fell down. Look at Iceland, for example. Imagine a country going bankrupt. The country went bankrupt. Why? It's because they thought that they could borrow money from the world and lend it out at high rates and keep doing that forever until someone just pulled the bottom brick out of the wall and the whole thing collapsed. I was in Iceland a few weeks ago. The people walking around like this. What happened? They had one of the strongest currencies in the world, and the currency was worthless. You could not exchange the Icelandic krona for anything because it had no value. People were still going out to restaurants and paying in krona. I know, because I went out to restaurants and paid in krona. And nobody knew what the money was worth. The third part of management is recruiting. And we're going to talk a lot about this because it's very important. And staffing means attracting and keeping the people necessary to do the job. Now, I will emphasize this throughout the day, but the most important skill that you have as a manager is the ability to select good people. Is that 95% of your success as a manager will be determined by the people that you select. And selecting people is a special skill that you can learn. Most managers have never been taught how to select people properly. They've gotten advice from people or read a book or read an article, but the ability to select the right people for you to carry out the plan determines your success or failure. It is amazing how many top executives lose their jobs completely because they hired the wrong person for an important job. It is amazing how many companies go bankrupt because they have one incompetent person in a key job. So number 4 is delegation. And we're going to talk about delegation because delegation is the key to management. We say that the job of the manager is to be a multiplier. What does that mean? It means that you multiply yourself times all the people that report to you. I worked some years ago with Lee Iacocca. Lee Iacocca, if you remember, was the president of Ford Motor Company, and he was fired. And he was offered the job as the president of Chrysler Corporation. And so he took the job for $1 per year. And he went in and he just studied Chrysler Corporation. He found that they had 36 managers in charge of Chrysler Corporation worldwide. Senior managers, vice presidents. And as he went through them, he found that 35 of them were incompetent. And so he, over the next 3 years, every month, on average, he fired and replaced one manager. In 3 years, he turned the company around completely, like a great ocean liner in the ocean, and the company went from massive losses to massive profits. And he became one of the great business executives of history. And he told me personally, he said the key was to replace the incompetent managers. And that's really important. We'll talk about this as we go. But I hate to be the one to tell you, but you have incompetent people working for you. Yes, and when you look at me, you know who they are. In fact, you are thinking of their faces when you hear me talk. Each manager has people working for them that they would not hire again today. So if you would not hire them again today, the next question you ask is how can you get rid of them and how fast? Because once you ask this question and the answer is no, it means it's too late to save the situation. It means that you made a mistake when you hired that person. So what you have to do now is you have to fix the mistake. Now I know there's all kinds of legal regulations about hiring and firing people in Poland. So let me just give you my ideas. But here's an important point, is the manager who keeps an incompetent person in a job is themselves incompetent. Because your primary job is to pick competent people. If you pick incompetent people, it means that you're not competent and you should not be allowed to keep your job. In fact, what the company should do is fire you as quickly as possible because you're a danger to the company by putting incompetent people in place or by keeping incompetent people in place. And I don't mean to be hard on you, but most managers need to hear this rather than think, I'm so good, I'm so pure, I'm so kind. No, you're just weak. And so what you have to do is look at everybody and say, is there anybody that's working for me that I would not hire again today if I had to do it over? And when you finally have the courage to let the person go, afterwards you will only have one question. The question will be, why did I wait so long? Keeping a person in a job where they have no future is cruel. It's unkind. It's a terrible thing to do to a person. Because if you let them go free, they can then find a job that is the right job for them. So you think that you're doing a nice thing by keeping a person in a job where they're not competent? Actually, what you're doing is a very harmful and hurtful and cruel thing. It's an evil thing. It's a thing that is actually punishing that person and holding them back from the rest of their lives. Are you with me so far? Am I making you a little bit uncomfortable? I hope so, because the kindest and most generous thing you can do is to go to a person and you say, you know, this is not the right job for you. I thought about this, and I don't think you're happy here. I think you'd be happier doing something else, and help them to get another job.